So without further ado, I want to introduce Jason Fuller to the stage.
I feel like I was
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank Dave Fredericks for pulling together DevOps. It's always a good time. So,
Hey, if we can get everybody over here, Jason's about to set up this presentation, all right?
it really is the voice. Dave, I don't know, what'd you charge the batteries on that in 5 seconds? DevOps that mic, that's what you did. All right, so DevOps meetup. Here.com. So many of you guys have seen me, know me. Some of you have worked for me. I'm really an ops manager who's done a lot in the cloud over the last 10 years. Here.com is, as Dave said, or I should say, was the Navtech, which was under Nokia for a long time. So for those of you who don't recognize the name, it has been a year since we've been out on our own. We have a huge operation in Germany. We have a huge operation in Chicago. We're about 7,500 people globally. My marketing team does a great job, so they put their pitch in my deck because I didn't get a shitty deck. I'm sorry. So industries we're in, automotive, transportation. That's where you probably know us the best. If you drive a car with an in-dash map, it's a map that is here. If you use Bing, it's here. If you use Amazon.com, it's here. So pretty much, weirdly, Facebook here. So anything that you do in your consumer life, you've probably touched our products, but you don't know it. We are an API SDK. We don't really do a whole lot of consumer. You do have an app you can put on. Here in the US, we don't tend to use it because we use Google or Apple, but in Germany, most of Europe, it's here all the time. So that's the most I've said here in a year, by the way, because it's very hard to control, the pun intended. Anyway, I'm going to show you a quick video, eat up time, and that will give you a better idea of what we do.
Are you in this?
I'm not in the video. And the video is not playing over the HDMI, so we're going to skip the video. It is a shitty deck.
It's playing.
Yeah,
We just have no sound.
no sound.
You can do a voice. Oh. Bow, bow, bow.
Your marketing people decide to test you.
Imagine global destruction, third storm in a week in New England, and you know where your kids are. Imagine fire and everybody coming to rescue. Imagine smart. Yeah, I'm not very good at this.
That was
I'm going
great.
to skip the
That was
marketing.
great.
That was great. That's fine.
You want to keep going?
I mean,
I'll
the
go back to
drones
the
just showed up and you turned it off.
Oh, the coolest part of this video, let me skip ahead for everybody who wonders how the world will look in the future, is this bit here. This was awesome at CES. Well, not the fragile item bit, but the facial recognition that you are, in fact, the person who's supposed to get it, but then this bit here of the automated truck showing up and then deploying Amazon into your location. So they don't need a factory. They're going to just show up, and they're going to snowball all of us. So back to the deck. So we do location, but Dave asked me to come talk about scale of infrastructure, not my own company. So shameless plug over. Oh, one more shameless plug. Oh, one more. Sorry. AWS. So those of you that are in the cloud today, you're probably in one of three major providers. If you're not, then you're probably angry. You're in Amazon, you're in Google, or you're in Azure. And I'm not allowed to use Google because they're a major competitor of ours, as you can imagine. So scratch that. I'm also not in Azure. So AWS, I sit on the customer advisory board. I get to tell Andy Jassy what's wrong with this product on a regular basis, which is actually very empowering, if you can imagine. I highlighted this in our marketing teal, but this isn't the important part that this statement makes. This is a fourth quarter earnings, Google, of course. I want you to just look at it. Added Workday, Salesforce, Capital One, FINRA, who is the regulator, so you're supposed to be watching our stuff, McDonald's, who we've all grown up eating, and there's billions of burgers sold every day, and others to enterprise customers. They don't care about the little guy anymore. They don't. They make cool products, they make it so all of our stuff works, but their focus is on this, right? Globalization of technology. They don't want to hear about your next cool product. I've heard of companies that are using over $200,000 a month in AWS, still working with inside sales reps in Seattle, not getting a dedicated person who can walk you through this process, not getting somebody who can actually help you with it. My numbers are much bigger, as you can imagine. We make up quite a bit of this operating income that they got to report. But my job at the company is to actually take that and do really three things. And so this is what I want to concentrate on tonight. So my team has an understanding there are two types of people, those with loaded guns and those who dig. So we tend to shoot with the good, the bad, the ugly. We're what our executives call a center of excellence. For those of you who've done software for a long time, this has been a term that's thrown around. I won't use the negative words that are associated with it, but a lot of companies, including my ex-employers, have said, that doesn't work, it's really useless. Center of excrement, I think, was one time thrown at me. So not a good way if your company doesn't feel like governance by example or assistance, you know. So supportability. AWS is global, not everything is equal. If you've gone into China with AWS, you know you're not getting the same AWS that you're getting in Northern Virginia, that you're getting in Seattle, that you're getting anywhere. You're getting a new kind of AWS in China. If you're going to Ohio, you're getting a new kind of AWS. You know, so they're strategically placing regions where they know they can get the biggest customer movement. Ohio is specifically a region just to get less than 10-second millisecond failover from Northern Virginia, so that their enterprise customers can claim a DR site, not so that you can have another cool place to go on the East Coast. That's not the need, right? So it's really, you know, there is some good to it. I mean, AWS does have the ability to put up things in seconds. You know, we used to say at Pegasystems, I'm looking at Barton, my sales team and I would walk in and we go, you use your IT department to run this project, it'll take them 150 days to rack stack and build that instance that you need for your dev, or I can have it to you tonight, you know. Not really a competition at that point, you know, IT loses. So, and it's gotten even better, that was in 2010, so that was 2017. So now you're putting things up in seconds, you're doing serverless architectures, you're doing things with Lambda, you're bringing things in. IoT is their next big, you know, it's always the hot term, right, but it'll be huge. You know, the problem is the enterprise gets in the way, as our last presenter said. You know, David was very right to say enterprises, regulations get in the way. GE engines today can tell GE exactly how much data is coming through an engine, but do you think the airplane manufacturers who are putting the engines, Boeing, putting the engines in, want that data to go back to the manufacturer? Of course not. Shows that they're out of compliance, shows that they're not doing what they said they would do, shows the contracts are off. So therefore, GE will void all of their warranties and would never show up to fix that engine. But an engine flying for 2 hours produces 500 terabytes of IoT data. We put up in our drive production cycles a petabyte per month, net new. So when we look at a problem, we don't look at the problem and say, how do I fix that little app, or how do I save another 100, 200, 300? We look at how do I look at $1 million, $2 million, $500 million, you know, dollars, and try to drive that in. So, but building at scale is not linear. You have to be really smart about how your services integrate. So when you have an integration test at our size go wrong, you have $180,000 in a few hours. You know, when you have a auto-scaling group with no ceiling set that makes perfect sense, you know, for all of us who have ever lived in an operating world, you set controls, you set moments in time to pause the game. You know, when you don't have that, it goes straight out the door. So I like to say if it matters in the small companies, it matters in the big companies. So we try to bring as a center of excellence down to our DevOps, down into our teams, a look at the world that says, that's your perspective. You know, if you have trouble with buying RIs because you don't think the thing will be alive for 12 months, okay, that's all right. We figured out how to track, tag, and move RIs and charge you only for the usage. We'll buy the RI. You know, the corporation is okay with that, right? We have 150,000 other C3 8 extra larges that we can let that apply to. Don't worry about your 200. Don't worry about your 10 to 1,000 on a daily movement, right? We'll take care of that. So we had to come up with ways to actually drive some of the things that we know we need to do in each account across hundreds of accounts, and then bring that into, you know, into a kind of best practice sort of center of excellence. So I do feel like we're doing a lot here we certainly drive a ton of data. This is a graph. I was asked by my fancy marketing people to remove the numbers on the left. These are hundreds of terabytes. You can imagine what this might look like. The idea that snapshots, let's just talk about that for a second. If you're a snapshot fanatic, you know, you're going to have a graph something like this. Somebody did something right here by setting a policy. and we still ended up, you know, this is a 2x growth over a year, right? So it doesn't stop. We've been an AWS customer for 8 years. It doesn't stop. We have, you know, we do this every year, 2x, 2x, 2x. You know, our actual EBS usage went up 4x, you know. So everybody wants it, everybody uses it, and at a small team, small batch level, you need to be good at your job, you need to move fast, you need to do those things, because we're innovating, we're against Google, we're against Apple, we're against the biggest, you know, baddest guys on the West Coast. But for us, you know, it's about then my team coming in and driving this graph into some level of maturity to say, this doesn't work. Whoever this blue guy is didn't do jack in 2016. What were you thinking, you know? This is a good 200 terabytes of data. What are you doing, you know? How are you handling that? So policies only work if they have teeth. You know, even in the enterprise, you can have regulations. And we certainly put contracts out there that say, look, you have to have 2 full regions to get over 99%. You know, that's it. That's the rule of thumb, right? So engineering works to that standard. That's our regulator, right? But then how do you work inside of that? How do you work that into a workable model? You know, you need data. So one of the things that's really important, if you're someone in the center or someone who's at the top of your organization, drive as much data into the floor as you can. Because if the users of the AWS services have data, they have the ability to say, whatever that team did was right. Let's go talk to, you know, this team. Let's go find out what they did. You know, and we can make that introduction. We can have that conversation. Whoever's this blue team is wrong. Whoever's in this purple team is wrong. Whoever showed up on the block in May needs to get, you know, touched pretty hard. So, you know, we do try to do that. I will say, you know, AMI life cycles, for those of you who are big fans of, you know, stop, you know, 2 cycles back, don't let in the SSH guys, don't do that. At the enterprise level, that's great to say, but it doesn't really, I can't spend time with 1,800 people explaining an AMI policy or explaining IAM and explaining why I choose to do this. Sometimes you have to just come in and go, if I tag it that it's going to be killed, it's going to be killed unless you call me and tell me not to kill it. Like, that's just it. You have 2 weeks. It's in your CloudTrail log. Set up an alarm to monitor that, and that's that. You know, now the policy's in place. One area some of you might not know about because you don't do enough, or because you don't know about it because you're still doing inside sales with AWS, multi-part factor upload. It's a huge, just like EBS snapshots, huge killer to your bill. If you don't actively set policies to kill off multi-part factor upload failed state, AWS never tells you about it. You can't see it, you can't go use it, it's sitting on S3, it's a failed multi-thread upload, and it just sits there charging you cash. So if you look at your bill, and like David's friend said, AWS is wicked expensive, it can be, but if you set a policy to simply say wipe that out after 3 days of of that flag status, you can't touch it. It's not like someone could argue with me that I needed that, I needed that, I needed that. Hoarding has to stop, right? Nope, kill it, right? So swipe through, kill it. Now you can do multi-policy on S3, you can do insights, you can tag objects with 10 tags each. Go tag a huge multi-data point tag that you can then concatenate and then rip it apart and use in different areas to identify areas of misuse, use infrequent access. I mean, AWS is understanding you can't keep charging your customers $5 million a month at the enterprise and expect them to hang around for long. When Google comes in and says, forget it, I don't give a crap what you use, I'll give you that for 60%. You just go use as much as you want, you're good, enterprise agreement. Or Microsoft, for that matter, who lives on EA, right? So they know that competition is there, so play them against each other. It's actually really, really exciting to watch them squirm a little bit. So that's my experience with here in AWS.
Questions?
Nick England.
No,
I've proven I have a son.
All right, Nick, right here.
I know
I wonder how his kids sleep at night.
No,
So I was interested in what you said right at the beginning about what works for small companies works for large. And I think it's important because you've obviously spent way too much of your life going in and cleaning up shit after enterprises have gone out of control with AWS. And I think that's an important lesson to pick up, that start out as you mean to go on. So implement, yeah, and certainly in the startup world where I am right now, I'm emphasizing this, you know, as you give full freedom to developers to spin up what they want, when they want, make sure you have the controls in place to clean up after yourself. And I know you've had some lessons in this and it'd be worth talking about.
Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit more. So there's always in the DevOps meetups a good argument about, you know, especially in the Slack channel, what tools. So I'll concentrate on that for a second. What tool do you use? Well, I use a tool. I got a hammer. You know, my hammer has a point. My hammer's got a flat head. I mean, everybody has a different tool. Pick a few that work, but work with your team, especially in the small company space. Sit down and say, is Slack the right thing for us? You know, and then look at what you have to retain as a company to understand. Yeah, is enterprise Slack worthwhile? You know, or am I just going to use the free thing forever? You know, we're about to go to Seattle and have a private. Well, I'll be polite, a private session with AWS where we are going to hear about their next product lines, because we do this every 6 months, on the opposite of reInvent, right? But it's like a private reInvent. And one of the things that I've brought up is that I want them to talk to me about exactly what open source competitors are you scared of, and why should I worry about it at the enterprise? Because there's a convergence that happens right around when AWS came out, I'd say. Rentable space. With $10, you can put up 8 hours of enough architecture to prove anything you've got in your head. If you can code it on your laptop with $10, you can rent space at AWS to go into the next startup, to pitch it to the next VC, to pitch it to your mom, to pitch it. Doesn't matter. Open source. You can go get everything you need. You know, I'm a big F Oracle, like big. Like that's big, you can do that, right? You can also plan on the broadband being widely available, right? I think every time I see a commercial, I just saw it the other night on TV, the Metro PCS, and I feel so bad for Northern Dakota because they never get the spot on the mobile map. Like what, like, but big, like you can get broadband pretty much everywhere that's a first world kind of city, right? Anywhere in Boston, you can certainly find fast enough internet to do everything you want to do, to prove that you want to do it. And so those three things alone, you know, let alone all the amazing, awesome language and framework and just code changes that we've all created, you know, Python and all of the shit you can do with Ruby Rails. I mean, you can go on and on and on about now you've got just this perfect storm going on, and in the small company, stay in the free tier. It's not more than a weekend worth of design and work to actually figure out how to live in Spot for free. Dump the instance at 58 minutes, spin up a new one. If you're good with your object-oriented, free, stateless, free AWS. You know, they give you 120 seconds to get the hell out when they decide they're going to boost it over your spot price. But as long as you dump it first, it's kind of, you know, I won't say it because there are ladies in the room, but get out first. Get out. It's not that hard. So yeah, but do all those things when you're small, and when you grow up and you're making billions of dollars a year, you won't have that bottom line problem like most AWS customers who didn't grow up on the cloud, where you're building Oracle databases to do massive jobs. Now we have an addiction, right? We couldn't live as a company without AWS. So I look at it and say, a petabyte a month, that's fine. My job is to go get AWS to give me that petabyte for as much off market as possible. So I sit down with the commercial team and I go, let's go beat the hell out of them. Let's go negotiate this. Let's go do that. But then I got to come back to guys like Mick and say, hey Mick, set an IA policy for 30 days and then please delete it at 60. And if you have something that's 2 years old, I'm going to come in and delete it for you. You know, and if Mick follows the rules, then
why not delete it in 30?
Well, there you go. That's a perfect example.
So on that point, you were showing us a graph of what seemed like cloud health.
right? Yeah,
This is S3, actually EBS snapshot usage in 2016.
right, okay. Well, it looked like cloud health.
It does.
Yeah, same
It's
thing.
sick, crazy addiction.
Right,
But yeah, go
but so clearly the issue hasn't been addressed with the purple guy, or with the blue guy, or with the bottom purple guy.
the new guy.
So like, what the hell takes you so long? Like the money's already spent, like right? Like like it's wasted.
Yeah.
Or not? Maybe it's not wasted. Maybe it's really important stuff that they're doing.
That's true. And so when you work in a big enterprise, you have to look at the silos and you have to understand that you're not just, you can't just come in. I've a disadvantage because Mick has worked for me, so I've seen his working style firsthand. He will come in and he will torch anybody, and they will walk away with tears, about whatever they thought was cool is no longer cool, and they don't want to work with us anymore. But they do work with us. This is another perfect example. There's tribes in every company, and in the enterprise it's even more so. We have 1,800 users of AWS inside of here, but we're a 7,500 person company at 170 sites. So if I didn't love my family, I probably could be on a plane every Monday and every Friday to go around fighting all these fires, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So what you have to do is, once you've discovered the problem, like this guy, is drive that conversation into the ground. Make sure that it becomes very crystal clear with that team. And you don't always have the ability, and we have over 500 accounts, so even meeting with 500 teams every week is not going to be a human feasible thing. So how am I going to handle 1,600, angry, mix? I'm not, right? But the trick is, get it into their goals, right? So this is a really good thing for those of you that work for a really big data-driven culture, is if we set a KPI that says you're going to decrease your EBS over 60 days by 80% over the next year, it works, right? It does. Their incentives are tied to it. Their money's tied to it. People all want to work on positive things. This is a positive outcome. There's a result that you can measure. It's easy, right? It's a SMART goal for all of you SMART goal crazies. But the idea is you got to set some of the stuff up, but until you show a graph like this and say to the executives, look, that's way too much money. What are we doing about it? They go, oh my God, it is too much money. Let's put a task force together. Let's go figure this out. But as a team, was Mick's point, as a team, this could be your own CloudWatch data, right? You could see this in your own account.
So the way that my company is handling this, trying to tackle this exact issue, is every company has a budget, right? Essentially, because everything is tagged, and what's not tagged has been researched and tagged. And then they get a call from CFO saying like, what the hell? And that's the call that they don't want to get.
Yeah, caveman style.
So basically, they kind of have like responsibility to...
It's demotivating, in my experience, to tell a team in Q4 that your project's being canceled because the budget has been blown.
Oh, no.
No, but I'm just saying that's the extreme, right, of that example.
Yeah.
CFO calls up and says, should have never let that intern onto Redshift. Sorry. Right? So what we tend to do is we'll look at this all the time. So the other thing that we've done is we've taken Trusted Advisor data, which I know we can all laugh and poke fun at it, but Trusted Advisor comes off an API, AWS tells you how much they think you're going to waste this month. Put that into something, Elk, Splunk, put it somewhere where you can roll it up, right? It's not enough to be in 500 accounts. I can't even log into that many accounts. I have to put it into something I can roll it up, and then send that data downstream and say to the team, AWS says you're wasting $60,000. I don't care if that's right or wrong. It says $60,000. The CFO sees it, you see it, what are we doing about it?
Yep.
Now the team has to come up with a solution. You do have to become a master at outsourcing in the enterprise. I'm not talking about international here. I'm just talking about not me, right? I can show you the data. I can show you how much projected annualized waste there is. The team has to decide, is my SLA dictated by this? Let's say we have a service that this is actually running that has a 99, to BMW, our owner. Well, I don't want to fuck my owners. I mean, that's bad. That's bad for business. So I don't want to turn off that service if this is legitimate value, but it could be waste, right? So you have to get to a point where the team can admit they have a problem or they don't, right? And then you can make a decision on how to. And it's a black and white.
Well, all right.
Split the problem in half.
Jason, thank you so much. Big round of applause for Jason. Any questions that you guys have, we'll table them for afterwards. If you want to keep